When the ideals of manhood differ across times and culture, it's of cross-cultural consensus that the traits of the leading man include strength, control, and stoicism. A son, a brother, a father. The seeder through whom the Creator continues to populate the garden of life. Then man became king. King, the anointed of God, majestic in splendor. Then the king became legend, a subject of consensus and debate, adoration and aberration, love and hate, a story for authors, a song for the musicians, and a medium for culture. Awujale. Another link in the chain of the ancestors, or Gbagba II, the reverent heartbeat of Oluiwa Baba Ijebu. Oba Dr. Sikiru Adetona GCFR, JP, the Awujale and paramount ruler of Ijebuland. This is the story of the prince who grew into kingship with mythical stature, an enigma personified as the youngest Ijebu prince to ever don the crown of Obanta, a king divinely proposed as the longest reigning Awujale in recorded history. A reign that has brought about unity, peace, prosperity, and nobility to Ijebuland and the Ijebu nation worldwide. Ijebu Renaissance Group presents Awujale, the King, the Legend, and the Myth. A documentary of the life and times of Oba Dr. Sikiru Adetona, or Gbagba II, the Awujale and paramount ruler of Ijebuland. Coming soon.
Kábíyèsí aláyélúwà Awujale akílẹ̀ Ìjẹ̀bú ikú olúdà aláṣẹ pákéjì òòṣà agbógun bàbáyèwé abẹ́rẹ́ másán ògbòrògọ́ndà èèbẹ́mọlódú rẹ̀yìnrẹ̀yìn èèbọ́lọ́mọjà máfọmọrí. Kábíyèsí aláyélúwà olúwa mi àwòyó ikúlàdé ọ̀rọ̀ lọ́dọ̀ aláàdá gbadamu Èṣùmàrè ààfin ọmọ ọbàtàbítà lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ tí ó ṣolé dáúdáú ọmọ kọ̀bítì lásà ó jagunlé ẹrú ọmọ alágbọ̀n méjìlélógún ọmọ anúṣó ìgbé nílé ìgbé lóòṣà ọmọ agbẹ́kọ̀ gbààlà Kábíyèsí.
Kìígbé láìdádé Olúbáyọ̀dé ọba Ìjẹ̀yẹ P7 ọdún gbadé ní 1960 ọjọ́ ńlá lọ́jọ́ Ìjẹ̀bú Òde ìjòrò oṣù dẹ̀dẹ̀ ó di ládùn tó Awólọ́wọ̀ Akíntọ́lá wọ́n bá wa ṣe. Àníkìláyà Kábíyèsí Adémọ́lá Ṣìkìrì mi ní ọba òye Olúkáyọ̀dé ọlọ́pọ̀lọ́dún ju igi nínú ìwé education ló bá lọ sí London kọ́.
The year is 1960, and in the newly independent British colony of Nigeria, agog with realities of self-governance, lies Ijebuland. Ijebus, the notable and proud people of pre-colonial Nigeria, are experiencing the uniquely momentous event in which the vacant throne of the Awujale of Ijebuland is about to receive its newest occupant, marking the beginning of a new course in the history of Ijebuland, the Yoruba race, and the Nigerian state. This is the legendary story of Oba Dr. Sikiru Adetona, or Baba Agbotewole II, CFR, the Awujale and paramount ruler of Ijebuland.
In Ijebuland, the Awujale of Ijebuland is the paramount ruler of Ijebuland, and he is the supreme head of all Ijebus, at home and in the diaspora. And he's always lived up to it.
Nígbà tí bàbá Awujale máa jẹ, bàbá mi ní ó fàlẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ní tòrò, tó dẹ̀ mú lọ létẹ̀ fún. Àtò létẹ̀ fún ni bàbá mi mú lọ sí odò. Bàtí bàbá mú lọ sí odò, bàbá mi náà gbogbo nǹkan tó máa ṣe lódò lọ́hùn wọ́n ṣe. Bàtí wọ́n dẹ̀ ń bọ̀, bàbá mi náà ló mú bọ̀. Tó jọ fi gba ibi báyìí pẹ̀lú eléṣe tó fi wà ní àfìdí ìtànsọ yìí. Iṣẹ́ bàbá náà mo máa ṣe ń sìn. Bàtí bàbá mi kú ní 1981.
The coronation of an Awujale requires that the new Oba-elect takes on specific tasks devised by the ODs, a group of Awujale's chiefs specially concerned with customary duties of chieftaincy and other traditional rites.
Ìlétẹ̀ ó wà fún pé ó jẹ́ ọba nìyẹn, àlétẹ̀ fún ìjọ méje. Lẹ́yìn ìjọ méje a kúrò lórí orí ìtẹ́. Tó bá kúrò lórí ìtẹ́ wá lọ sí odò oṣù mẹ́ta. Lẹ́yìn odò oṣù mẹ́ta tó bá lọ yẹn tó bá dé, a wá ṣe ìgbàdé ní ìtòrò.
The Elise had to wait for me. When I got there, they started some rituals there and whatnot. Then I had to mount on his back and to take me across to the end. And when I faced Ijebu, he would turn back and never to see again.
Born in Imukba, Ijebu, on the 10th of May, 1935, to Omoba Rufai Adetona Adeleke of the Anikinaya ruling house and Ajibabi Adetona ni Onoshile of the Olubadejo dynasty of Ijebu.
The Awujale and I were born in the same year. He belongs to the Onoshile branch of that family, and I belong to the Banjo. And the main bridge between them has been Mrs. Oyin Adenuga.
Growing up in a traditionally polygamous home, both his parents, albeit uneducated, were always supportive pillars throughout his early life and decidedly influential in modeling the young prince as his story plays out.
After primary school, I felt I was so neat going on the further. After all, I was a tough boy here, of course.
Stubborn, adventurous, and quite independent-minded, the young prince Adetona spent his formative years moving from one school to another.
My mother wasn't pleased, but she went behind secretly to Lagos to go and meet Abraham Adesonya. So he said, what are you doing? I said, no, I'm finished. He said, finish what? I said, no. He just put him in the car and took me to school.
By 1958, he was convinced it was time to chart a new course. Gathering his savings together, he resigned his appointment in the audit department and decided to go to the United Kingdom to further his studies. His arrival in the United Kingdom was significantly marked by fate, fortune, and a favored positioning with God and man.
I had a friend we met at audit. I called him Eso. I said, Eso, look, no money. So I said, don't worry. He gave me his passbook and signed it. And I had to go and do whatever money I like from it.
Sikiru Adetona claims direct descent from Oluiwa and Obanta, the legendary founding fathers of Ijebu Kingdom.
Oba Folagbade was the same mother with my father. When Ijebu died, there were two candidates, my father and his brother. And my father knew that there was no room for a literate Oba anymore. Therefore, instead of putting himself up, he nominated me.
Even for his father to yield the throne to him, we were a bit prayerful for him because he was only 25 or so.
He was too young for that office then. That was how I felt.
When the Awujale was picked, I was in London, and so many people started phoning me or getting in touch with me.
It was during the interaction at the meetings that the news came that the young man has been chosen as the Awujale of Ijebuland.
On the 2nd of April 1960, Alayeluwa Oba Dr. Sikiru Adetona was crowned the Awujale and paramount ruler of Ijebuland by the Mugusu and under the staff of office by the then Premier of the Western Region, Chief S.L. Akintola.
People were anxious to see him, to have a glance. And they descended on Ijebu heavily to witness his coronation. It was grand.
The first news that I heard when I came back into the country in 1960, just shortly after he was coronated. And the news I was getting was that he was a modern monarch, which didn't surprise me.
Ijebuland, one of the most populous and economically successful pre-colonial kingdom of southwestern Nigeria, consists of 6 major settlements: Ijebu Igbo, Ijebu Mushin, Ijebu Ife, Ijebu Ososa, Ijebu Remo, and Ijebu Ode, but stretches into border settlements in parts of Lagos and Ondo states. Here, the Awujale of Ijebuland reigns supreme and governs judiciously as the paramount ruler over the entirety of this land and the total extent of his domain.
Well, I know that Ijebu is almost about almost 1,000 years old. There was trouble in Ife. Then Guru and her son decided to go and look for his father, Uliwa. He consulted the oracle. But it was en route that Guru died at Oshun. And Elisi was in the entourage. He was carrying the cart. When the cart got lost, missing, he said, no, you have to stop. Until you find the cart, you can come. That is why Elisi cannot come to Ijebu. You can see the Awujale. Until 1892, May 1892, Ijebu was an independent, separate nation. Of course, Obaship was the government of the day. Gbogbo àwọn ìwà abọ̀rìṣà, ká pààyàn, ká fi bọ́lẹ̀, ká fi pé kínní, wọ́n ní ó láti ṣẹ́wọ́ ẹ̀. Àwọn èèyàn wa wọn gbàrà àtọ̀. Ìyẹn ló lè sí ogun Màgbọ́n tàbí ní Anglo Ijebu War àbí ogun Dáranṣubú.
The war that has the highest level of accolade was in Màgbọ́n War. When I say I shouldn't call it accolade. I should say it's a historical war, because that was when the British defeated the Ijebus. The British were the first people to ever defeat Ijebus. Ijebus had never been defeated by any tribe.
Ijebu ọmọ adúrún mọ́sùpẹ̀ dìyẹ jẹ́. Ọmọ ẹlẹ́dìyẹ ògògò mọ̀nìgà tí fẹ́yìn ẹ̀yẹ bí awó kẹ̀ǹgbẹ́. Ọmọ adìyẹ gorí òwúlé pò lélẹ̀ ara òrókùn ara òrẹ́ dìyẹ. Ọmọ òṣèṣe ni òyọ̀ǹyọ̀ òyọ̀mọ́yọ̀mọ́ ti ṣe mi ò lè pani. ẹ mọ̀ wípé iṣu mẹ́fà ní iṣu Ìjẹ̀bú, èjì ń jíjẹ, èjì ń ta ìjẹ. Olóríṣà tí bàbá wọn fi méjì tó kù bọ nínú kan fi bòòsà ìlú kú àbí kan fi ba alágẹmọ mẹ́rìndínlógún ogún yọ wọ̀yọ̀wọ̀yọ̀wọ̀yọ̀wọ̀. Ẹ̀yin lọ́mọ aráyé òròkò.
Monarchs and the monarchical structure of kingdoms in Nigeria represent divinity, legacy, and a deep spiritual embodiment. A kingdom ruled by a wise and purposeful king will translate into years of political conquest, boisterous economic accomplishment, exemplary leadership, and a prosperous people at the helm of affairs and as a symbol of unity. Alailua Oba Dr. Sikiru Adetona began to draw his people in, both old and young, affluent and promising, in a bid to ensure that everyone understood that for Ijebuland, a new era has emerged.
Not many people of his age at that time could succeed in the Council of Obas. Because the mere look at the people at that time, a young man will be afraid to talk or take any action. But he did. He was very bold. Very bold. Not only the old Obas. He has many Ijebus that are business tycoons with whom he had to interact.
Then I was inspired the way he was getting around to meet up and coming Ijebus. Not necessarily elites, but people who are making moves, who are potential stars among the Ijebus. We already had examples of the late Odutolas, Chief Okunowo, my young uncle Chief Shonibare, and quite a lot of eminent Nigerians.
According to Yoruba tradition, the Oba is not merely a leader, rather a larger-than-life figure, an Orisha, ruling ears or a domain, not as a mere mortal, rather more like a god, a custodian of history, art, and culture. As a young Oba with newfound power, it was imperative that the new Awujale immediately began to exercise his dominion, as he is now accountable to his people, his ancestors, and Olodumare.
I think the throne of Awujale is special because the Awujale has the sovereignty of all Ijebus at home and abroad.
His predecessor in office, Alailua Oba Daniel Adesanya, the Ijebu of Ijebu, got to the throne in 1933. But things are now totally different since the Awujale became the Awujale. He is a dynamic Oba, an Oba who wants progress for his people.
I think the first thing I recall that he did was to create 3 councils. The Council of Otumbas. There's of course the Council of Chiefs, to which I belong. Early in his reign, he resuscitated the age group, otherwise known as Regberegbe grades in Ijebu. These Regberegbes are the erudite and the doyens of the Ijebu societies. It's a pride to even belong to your own age group and identify yourself, the progress and development of the town. Still talking on governance, the institution of Ijebu Traditional Council what Kabiyesi has introduced is the creation of sectional obas. By this creation, he has carried governance closer to the people and also development of the locality also closer to the people.
As Awujale Adetona's reputation spread beyond the borders of Ijebuland, soon enough, the western region and the Nigerian states came calling.
Is somebody that they have to continue to pray for God to lengthen his life and to keep him there as a compass in terms of traditional authority. He had experience that no other Oba had. Minister, Oba, and he's gone through it all. Gone through it all.
He was a minister without portfolio under the government of late Chief Akitola SLA.
Oh, we were in the cabinet, taking decisions and things and whatnot. But we don't have any ministry. But we're part of the government, we're part of the cabinet. We receive memo, we discuss and take decisions.
Awujale is a Nigerian and he's an Ijebu man. When it comes to matters affecting Nigeria, you can see him. He will stand on principle, untarnished by what I will call selfish consideration.
I recall that when the Aburi Accord between Ojukwu and Usman, that was the governor of the East and the governor of the North at that time. He was one of those chiefs, that was selected to be an arbiter between them.
About Dr. Sikiru Adetona was a very strong, powerful advocate of justice and was solidly behind the restoration of Junta. He didn't hide his position. In fact, I would say was the grand patron of Nadeco. He was bold enough, courageous enough, and risked his throne to organize a Nadeco meeting in his palace.
The sense of maneuvering within the politician, which is actually a landmine in itself, and he has not been caught, tells you that 62 years going and he has not been caught in any controversies. Is a lot to be admired.
He openly canvassed support for June 12 to the point that once he traveled to the UK on holidays, as he used to go on summer holidays, when he came back, the whole of Ijebu came out and coined the song then, Káàbọ̀ Káàbọ̀, Ọba tí ò gbé eégún jẹ Káàbọ̀.
He can be a Nigerian now and an Ijebu man immediately after, which is understandable. He is Oba of Ijebuland.
In the words of Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., the American minister, leader of the civil rights movement, The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort, but where he stands at the time of challenge and controversy. Just as Awujale Adetona's legend began to grow and his influence became far-reaching, even beyond the shores of Nigeria, feathers at home and beyond the borders of Ijebuland were being ruffled.
He has fought many battles, and one of the things that comes with you with fame and fortune is that you develop enemies, people you haven't even offended. And therefore, for instance, there was a time when some government wanted to dethrone him. But he fought bravely. And please don't underestimate the title of the Awujale, because it's 1,000 years old. And there are so many forces fighting on his behalf that people cannot really see or fathom.
As a young man, this was said before, that he wanted to modernize the monarchy. And one of the things that he tried to do, I suppose, was to be his own man. And it's unfortunate that this brought him in collision course with the action group. I don't think he had anything really against the action group, but that he wanted to show that he was standing on his own 2 feet.
The issue with the action group was not a direct conflict with Awujale. However, the crisis had blown out of proportion. The internal conflicts within the action group between Obafemi Awolowo, the leader of the action group, and Ladoke Akintola, the then premier of the Western region, had begun to cause ripples and division all over Yorubaland. His greatest battle yet was still ahead of him. Awujale Adetona came into strong contention with the then governor of Ogun State, Chief Bisi Onabanjo, with lines drawn between constitutional authority and traditional dominion, and Ijebu's son, a subject of the Awujale, made the move to dethrone his own king.
The version that we had, I can't believe it, and he went to such an extent to humiliate him, actually, but he was vindicated in the end.
After Bisi Onabanjo has finished his term, went to Ijebu, he became a subject. But if not that Awujale put his foot down, he probably would have been deposed. But I then started trying to work out how to reconcile them. Awujale, of course, knew what I was trying to do. So one day, he called me and said, "My friend, I know what you are trying to do, but you are going about it the wrong way." I said, "Kabisi, how should I go about it?" And he said, "Look, even if I committed murder and they want to sanction me, it will be in the palace. And if I'm found guilty, they will ask me to go and sleep." So I apologized. I said, "Now I've learned." So I phoned Bisi. I said, "Look, I'm coming to Ijebu, and I will need your assistance. I want to go somewhere." So we go to Awujale's residence. They haven't built the palace then. And we got up from the car, went. Was probably going to about 9 p.m. Awujale had already gone into his bedroom. I went up, and Awujale came out, and Bisi and I stand up. We stood up, and Awujale sat down. And then I said, "Bisi, Yoruba, he reluctantly got up and moved towards Awujale. And Awujale got up and they hugged. And that was the end. That was how the matter was dealt with.
For the Yorubas, an Oba does not die, rather goes to join the ancestors. As a function of this, the Oshugbo, known as Ogboni to the rest of the Yorubas, come to take charge of the burial procession without recourse to the king's family. Awujale Adetona has been very much in opposition to this practice, as he sees it as an archaic and barbaric practice. He began to push for the amendment of the law to ensure that all Obas are allowed to be buried accordingly to their personal religious rites.
Now, history have had it that our Obas, when they pass on, they are buried in various forms.
I don't know about the Igbos or the Hausas, but the Yorubas, they know the way Obas are buried. Not the normal burial you see in the cemeteries and so on. So he then came out with the argument that, look here, every Oba has a religion. Why couldn't we allow these Obas to be buried according to their religion?
Some people make mistake because they said Oshubos, they are responsible for the burial of Oba. No, they are not. They have nothing to do with it. We don't believe that any Oba can die. It is these Oshubos who will go out at night and go and kill some people. Believe that those people killed will carry his luggages for him, follow him, and be ministered to him. They have nothing to do with the burial itself.
But when Kabiyesi started this crusade, I'm not sure it was readily acceptable. But he remained undaunted and continued to pursue that belief, starting with Ijebu's Obas. And of course, unanimously, the Ijebu Traditional Council accepted that view.
There was arguments held for and against. But at the end of the day, it was agreed and a communique was issued that Obas should be buried according to their religion. And that had been in practice. This is another thing that Oba Sikiru Adetono used to influence the institution of Obaship in Yoruba land. He brought it out. To touch such a topic, you must be very bold.
In the month of January 2022, Governor Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State signed into law a bill titled Obas, Chiefs, Council of Obas and Traditional Council Law of Ogun State, Bill 2021. The law, aimed at respecting human dignity and promoting modernity, now grants the right to the family of a deceased Oba to bury him or her in accordance with his religion instead of being buried by traditionalists.
Since he became the Awujale, Lailu Oba Dr. EyeCandy.Digital, he's done wonderfully well. He has brought a lot of improvements to Ijebuland.
He came to the throne at his prime, very early in life, and he grew in the traditional rulership to the extent that he can now be regarded as an institution. He worked very assiduously to see that the Ijebu kingdom does not go back
into the abyss of unknown.
Gbogbo Ìjẹ̀bú wọ́n tẹpá mọ́ṣẹ́. Gbogbo Ìjẹ̀bú sẹ́wọ̀n lólobó. Eré Ìjẹ̀bú o. Owó ni, owó ni. Àgbà Ìjẹ̀bú o. Owó ni, owó ni.
I don't know if you are an Ijebu man or if you knew Ijebu before the Awujale was enthroned. If you compare the Awujale's palace with any palace in Nigeria, you will agree with me that it's a first-class palace.
But before he came, series of attempts had been made at trying to build a befitting palace. Various donations were called, various things were done, and so on and so forth. Ogbeni Oja, and the first Ogbeni Oja, the second Ogbeni Oja, all the Ijebu sons who are blessed, made attempts, but there was no concrete result.
It was his time that we were able to collect enough to start the project and also to complete the project. The Ijebu people will ever remain grateful to the Awujale for that project.
He set the ball rolling and constituted some committee to work with him. I recall that at one stage, I found myself being the secretary of that committee. And when he started work, not only did he raise the finances that eventually completed the ultra-modern palace entirely from Ijebu sons and daughters. There was not a single kobo from any government, either state, federal, or even local, in the palace construction.
This time, the citizenry took up the challenge of building a befitting Afi for their beloved Awujale, with Chief Adeniro Ogunsoya, the then chairman of the Council of Otumbas, chairing the new Afi building committee. Finally, with the collective support of Ijebu sons and daughters and the Awujale leading the charge as the de facto site supervisor, it was non-stop construction from start to finish. On the 25th of November 1995, the new Afi was opened in all its glorious splendor, a symbol of communal excellence.
You must have heard about Awujale Festival. It was not like this before. The standard has now been raised to world standard. People now come from England, they come from France, they come from Germany, they come from all over the world annually to celebrate the festival. our royal father, Alailu Oba Dr. EyeCandy.Digital, reached that festival to that standard.
The Awujale Oba, he has made it into an international, world-famous cultural event.
He made his point. He made his mark. He laid a very beautiful beacon of hope for all the Ijebus to have their own space on this planet.
Anyone that knew the history of the Ijebus before his reign will know that Ijebus thrive on ote. Don't know what the English word for that. We thrive in ote. They lay things together, and the town is on one side, one people is on side, and so on and so forth. But when it came, since the 61 years that he's been on throne, I cannot recall any day that we've experienced any unrest in Ijebu or in Ijebu generally. If he sets his hands to do a thing, he do it with all the zeal that he has at his command.
Wọ́n wá dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ kábíyèsí gbogbo nǹkan ribiribi tó ń ṣe fún wa nínú ìlú ní gbogbo àwọn ọmọ tó wà lókèèrè tó ń darí wọn wálé pé kán wá máa ṣe ribiribi sí Ìjẹ̀bú Òde. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀. Àwa ọlọ́jà kẹ̀ kábíyèsí làwa tọwọ́ Ọlọ́run bá yọ kábíyèsí la gbójúlé òun la gbẹ́kànlé kọ́kọ́ dẹ̀ tí ì ní ṣe bàbá yẹn fún wa á pẹ́ fún wa á ṣe pẹ́pẹ́pẹ́pẹ́ á pẹ́ fáwọn ọmọ ẹ̀ á pẹ́ fáwọn ọlọ́jà náà. Ìjẹ̀bú Òde ò ní dàrú. Ẹ pé kábíyèsí o, kábíyèsí o.
There are many other things that one can say about the standard in Ijebu before he became the Awujale.
Professor Mabogu then approached Kabiyesi. Poverty level is so high. Something must be done. Kabiyesi accepted his proposition, summoned a meeting of the entire community. We met at this palace here, and he now put it to them that to improve the situation lies in their hands. And there and then, money has to be raised to see how the poverty level can be reduced. All the 36 states of the Federation sent delegates to the palace here for training under a poverty reduction program. To that extent, it is amazing the revolution which Sikiru Adetona, in terms of poverty reduction, has constituted not only in Ijebu, but throughout the country.
With a reign that has epitomized quality leadership, Alayeluwa, Oba Dr. Sikiru Adetona has always demonstrated his passion for education with most novel initiatives. In his own words, from his autobiography titled Awujale, our educational system requires very special attention. The root of all our developmental problems and stifled national growth and the shortcomings in our national behavior can largely be traced to the weakening of our educational system. Living up to his characteristic resoluteness and developmental generosity, Awujale Adetona launched a fund for the professorial chair in governance for the Department of Political Science, Olabisi Onabanjo University, Ogun State. This $500 million fund, a first of its kind in Nigeria, was launched in 2014 under the watch of the Otumba Dr. Segun Oshin, led governing council of the paramount ruler in celebration of his 80th birthday. The Awujale also expedited the establishment and construction of the Center for Governance within the same institution. This academic building is established with the purpose of undertaking research and awarding postgraduate diplomas, masters, and PhD.
I envisage a situation where the two institutions will become powerhouses of ideas, and that would, to a large extent, lead discourse on topical national issues. And in Kabiyesi's image, be able to speak truth to power. Because Kabiyesi, my colleague and successor, says Kabiyesi is a legend, he's a living legend. And there's no doubt that his legendary status is based partly on his leadership function of not shying away from speaking truth to power. And we are hoping that as we generate ideas in these two complementary institutions, the nation will begin to listen more and more to us.
Kabiyesi Awujale Adetona has left an indelible mark on traditional governance within Yoruba land and possibly the entirety of Nigeria. The Yoruba say, Àgbà ò kí ń wà lọ́jà kí orí ọmọ tuntun wọ́. Awujale Adetona, one part king, one part father of all things Ijebu, a responsible father nursing his word to progress and prosperity, a task he is determined to deliver on with every breath he has.
Days ago, I was just reflecting and I told him, I said, Daddy, God is good. And he said, what are your train of thoughts? I said, I remember this exact period 2 years ago. I remember the things you were saying. You were saying, Adetona, Muti Dagbao. If God says yes, I'm ready. And I remember everybody feeling sad and everybody crying, and you're the only optimistic one about everything, and maybe you not feeling so strong. And I look at you today and I'm confused, and I'm like, are you the same person? And you told me, you said, God is good because God will always meet you at every point of need. If God doesn't meet you there, it's not a need, it's a want. And hold on to that value. There's a difference between needing something and wanting something.
A godly person, he tries to manage people, and he has succeeded immensely. You will find people who don't agree. In my own case, he actually went out of his way, folding his arms, begging me and someone, saying that, please, I don't want both of you to fight. You two are my mirror. I think he's a divinely chosen leader.
He's not number one in the family. So if people have doubted that the father was biased, evidence and history has shown us that it is not so. For the fact that he's created a respectable and reverable image of that institution and made the institution a more pronounced institution.
I can remember in those days, some 40, 50 years ago, he never regarded himself as a number. He's always regarded himself as an ordinary person.
Frank, straightforward. At times, he does it with a touch of brutality, his frankness. He doesn't hide his feeling, and he says it as he sees it.
After Abacha was overthrown, that 3 times they tried to kill me. I had to go into hiding. And Awujale, it was then Awujale developed the habit then. And he would call me every night, prayed for me, and we would discuss and joke and everything. And we developed that till today, that every night, every day, Awujale and I would talk minimum maybe twice in a day, and discuss life and everything. And that was when we now became very, very close.
I've often been in gathering where people said, my dad has a dual personality. Yes, 1 minute is formal. The next minute is informal, depending on his mood, which most times is unpredictable. Unpredictable in the sense that, you see, when you sit on that kind of stool and have all sorts of manners of people approach you, you really have to be unpredictable. It's an advantage of it.
I happen to be his personal friend. But I never allow our friendship to come in between us. Whenever it is a customary matter, or I make sure that I give the Awujale the respect that he deserves as an Oba.
His decisions are most of the time from his own perspective, how he sees things. So 1 minute, if you are on his good side, it will give you the role to play. If you're on his bad side, it won't give you the role. It will feel you're irresponsible.
It was on his own volition that he decided to make me the Aremo, which is the first son, an honorary crown prince, and then made my wife the Bere.
In the course of the years, while the Awujale was on the throne, a few people tried to cause confusion between us. But the Awujale stood his ground and asserted, not his words, "This is my royal son, in whom I'm well pleased." That is the origin of the Olori Omoba of Ijebu.
Long live the king. Oba Moba, the monarch's monarch, held in the highest of esteem, home and abroad. The legendary visionary of the modern Ijebu, an arbiter for tradition and civilization, reconciling culture with innovation. The myth, Ogbagba Agbotewole II, a personification of wisdom, candor, industry and resolve, an embodiment of the past and future of Ijebu. His Royal Majesty, Kábíyèsí Aláyélúwà Ọba Dr. Sikiru Kayode Adetona CFR, JP, the Awujale and paramount ruler of Ijebuland. Kádé pẹ́ lórí, kí bàtà pẹ́ lẹ́sẹ̀, Kábíyèsí o.
Ọba Sikiru Kayode Adetona Ọ̀gbágbá II. Wàá pẹ́ náyé, wàá rí bá ti ṣe, wàá rọ̀nà gbégbà. Dèdèrún ò bá bẹ abẹ́, rírò bá dé adé, inú aráyé mú rẹ̀ náà wọ́n máa bèrè náà rẹ̀. Wàá rẹ̀yìn ọ̀tá, wàá rẹ̀yìn òdì. Yóò máa kúrò ọ̀nà bí efi. Ìjẹ̀bú anífẹ̀ẹ́ rẹ̀, wọ́n ní anífẹ̀ẹ́ Ìjẹ̀bú. Wàá gbọ́ tirẹ̀, wọ́n náà gbọ́ tiwọn. Wọ́n ń pẹ̀yẹ kan ní ṣáṣáǹgèlé, ó máa ń jó. Ẹni ń lùlù rẹ̀ wọ́n máa rí bọ̀ wá jó. Wá jó. Ìjọ abijó rẹ̀, ayọ̀ abáyọ̀ rẹ̀. Ẹyẹ akéké ẹyẹ ń dè rẹ̀, eku akéké eku. Wí máa ṣiṣẹ́, wí máa ṣìṣọ́. Ìran aráyé múlẹ̀ náà wọ́n máa bèrè náà rẹ̀. Òkè èké ró máa máa lọ. Àwa ọmọ rẹ̀ gẹ̀dẹ̀rẹ̀. Á ní kúkú òjijì. Àwa ẹ̀ má gbẹ̀yìn rẹ̀. Kí ọjọ́ náà bá dé, bàbá mi. dìde wa ojú apẹ́ ẹsẹ̀ àpé nínú ayọ̀ nínú ọlá nínú owó ọlọ́run afẹ́ni ṣe tó.
Kábíyèsí o, kábíyèsí o, kábíyèsí o, kábíyèsí o, aláyé ọba wa kádé pẹ́ lórí o, kẹ́jìgbà pẹ́ lọ́rùn kádé pẹ́ lórí o, kí bàtà pẹ́ lẹ́sẹ̀ kí ọba pẹ́ títí kíjọba rẹ̀ tù wá lára. Kábíyèsí o, ọba wa onínúure. Kábíyèsí o, kábíyèsí o.
Gbogbo Ìjẹ̀bú wọ́n tẹpá mọ́ṣẹ́. Gbogbo Ìjẹ̀bú ṣẹ́wọ̀n lólówó. Gbogbo Ìjẹ̀bú wọ́n tẹpá mọ́ṣẹ́. Gbogbo Ìjẹ̀bú ṣẹ́wọ̀n lólówó. Ìjẹ̀bú ọmọ alá.